the Supreme Court has struck down President Trump's tariffs in a 6-3 decision. The Supreme Court said that it would look at this and really act as quickly as they could because of all of the money involved. And how did we get here? Basically, President Trump declared national emergencies regarding drug trafficking and trade deficits, invoking a very old law that allowed him, in his opinion, to impose tariffs on imports from Canada, Mexico, China, and other important trading partners. It was a 25% duty on most of the Canadian and Mexican imports, 10% on Chinese products, and there were a lot of trading partners that also faced a 10% tariff. And basically the plaintiffs in this case said, you know what, this wartime law did not authorize such actions. Now, just so you know, the lower courts ruled in favor of those plaintiffs. The Supreme Court consolidated a few cases and agreed with the lower courts, basically saying they also do not believe that the president had the authority to impose these tariffs. Majority opinion delivered by Chief Justice Roberts, basically saying the Constitution gives Congress alone the power to impose tariffs. So one of the things that everyone's been talking about is, candidly, how does this affect me? Chris Briscoe's here. He's the Senior Vice President, Director of Financial Planning at Girard. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Okay, so I've given all the nitty gritty. We know how we got here. In terms of my money, your money, their money, how does this affect us?
Yeah, I think the key word for consumers is relief, right? In 2026, they were estimating that tariffs could cost consumers anywhere from $1,500 to $1,800 per year. So that's $125, $150 a month back in your pockets, which is significant.
Interesting. I was in a car with a news photographer when we were driving around, and he said, well, do I get my money back? Do these businesses get their money back? Like, we've paid it, right? I know my teenage daughter was paying extra money on her bathing suit coming in even from Australia last summer. Does she get her money back? How do we remedy this?
Yeah, I think it's going to take a while. I think it's going to be a little bit of a mess. I think companies are going to try to claw back some money on tariffs that they paid. But if you're looking maybe second, third quarter of this year, I believe you'll get relief in goods that are imported. So I think it's going to take a little time to play out. But I do, if this stands, if everything goes as it should, money will be back in our pockets in the next couple quarters.
And, you know, we casually look at the stock market here. No one in this room is an expert by any means. We saw before we went on the air that it looked like the stock market was looking at this favorably. Now it's down a little bit. I'm assuming that big business is going to like this decision.
Yeah, I think they're going to like it. It just depends on, can they get that money back and what they're going to try to do. A lot of companies are probably prepared for, extended periods of these tariffs. But it ultimately would be better for companies because they might be able to get some money back, and then that can cause them to lower prices for consumers.
And so, this is a very small example, very, very small example. And this is going to give you a lens into my life. The people who make some of the overalls and the sports gear, their crazy outfits, they were forecasting into the ahead, right? Because we need our Phillies gear, we need our bobbleheads, and a lot of that is made in China. So they had already reduced production, raised prices, thinking they weren't going to be able to sell these things at the higher prices. I'm assuming this will also change production forecasting, if that's even a word.
Yeah, I think it's going to change how much they're going to need to charge going forward. So if prices are coming down, I think the demand will be there, and maybe before that, they might have been worried that people weren't going to spend that extra money to buy those goods and pay for those services. But now with prices potentially coming down, that could be a real good for companies in production.
I'm not sure you know this, and it's okay if you don't, because we're just talking right now.
Sure.
What part of the consumer market is going to have the biggest impact? We know that Canada was saying, we're not going to give you our booze. Mexico, they were saying Modelo's are more expensive, both alcohol related. But is there, a pocket of the consumer world that is going to be most, that will benefit the most from this decision?
Yeah, I think anything you import, so electronics, you were talking about importing a bathing suit or clothing, footwear, anything that's coming from outside the US, that's going to have that impact. So if you're looking at purchasing furniture or you needed a new appliance, maybe pushing that back a little bit, prices might come down a little in the future.
Ooh, like 30 days, 4th of July. What are you thinking?
I don't trust anything of prices coming down anytime soon. So I'm thinking 4th of July. I'm thinking end of the second quarter, beginning of the third quarter. You'll start
Okay.
to see prices.
Any other big thoughts that maybe we haven't thought about when you look at this and this decision that, like, when you're seeing your family later tonight, you're going to share with them and say, hey, but I guess you didn't even think about this. Any big thoughts that we might not have thought about or asked you about?
I think really small when it comes to financial planning and your own budget, and that's having that extra couple $100s in your pocket every month. It can go a long way from saving it, paying down debt, making sure you have that emergency savings account. So really take advantage of this potential savings rather
I
than
love,
just spending it on something else.
well, it's Friday. Really? We can't go crazy at Sephora, Five Below.
Maybe on a beer for happy hour.
Thank you. The room likes that a lot. Chris Briscoe, bad news. You did a great job. So we're going to ask you to do it in the future, hoping you're available. Thank you for your time
Great.
today. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay.